Thor: The Dark World. And this really should come as absolutely no surprise, because of all the Marvel movies that have come out, this is the only one that I would really regard as being bad. All of the MCU movies pretty much range somewhere from passable to good to really, really good. But this really is the one that, to me, it's completely forgettable. It was still in the era where Marvel was trying to make everything super serious, and this was the first instance where that just seemed to not be working. They went a little bit bigger after Iron Man 3, tried to take it in different worlds, different directions, and it just didn't work. The Shakespearean elements without Kenneth Branagh there to handle them just did not seem to be working out that well. And it really sucks because it took the stuff that I really enjoyed about the first Thor and just made it boring. Thor has absolutely no conflict here, and if he does, then Hemsworth does not do a good job of portraying it. Like, literally, I'm watching Hemsworth here, and this is probably the only time that I would ever accuse him of being flat in the MCU, and he is almost never that. In fact, part of the reason why we love Thor so much is because Hemsworth is so damn charming. And I'm not gonna write off Natalie Portman as being completely uninvested, but there is a very clear difference between her performance in the first Thor and her performance in this movie. In fact, her experience working on this movie left such a bad taste in her mouth that she couldn't even come back for Endgame. But hey, clearly Taika left a good impression on her. But yeah, probably the most disappointing thing about this is that for it being easily the worst Marvel movie, it's probably the best looking Marvel movie, because this is the last movie that they shot on film before they transitioned to digital, and it really freaking shows. Like, the set design, the production, the visual effects are absolutely gorgeous. But ultimately, yeah, wasted on a very flat, boring script. I feel bad for Alan Taylor because this was the first instance where he tried to make a big budget movie and it just did not go in his favor, and he followed it up with Terminator Genesis. And as for the villains, yeah, Phase 2 was notorious for having the most forgettable, pointless, boring Marvel villains. And again, credit to Screen Junkies for turning Malekith into a meme, which is the only reason why people actually remember his freaking name. Be honest, how many of you actually knew that it was the 9th Doctor playing Malekith the Accursed in Thor: The Dark World? Yeah, this movie sucked. It's the only officially bad MCU movie. I gave it 2.5 stars. Doctor Strange. Without a doubt, to me, probably the biggest misfire the MCU has had. You know what? Misfire is the wrong word. I should say missed opportunity. Because for a movie that's supposed to be setting up like this entire magical subsection of the MCU, which in a way Thor kind of already did, to me, it really hangs back on all of the fascinating elements in order to try and tell a more grounded superhero origin story, which is fine. The problem is that at this point, Marvel really didn't know whether they wanted to go more hokey or still keep things grounded. Guardians of the Galaxy worked for them, but for the most part, the majority of their really successful movies have been the more grounded ones. And I feel like it wasn't until the following year with Guardians 2 and Thor Ragnarok that they really finally found the confidence to say, screw it, let's go all out in hokey. But to me, at least, Doctor Strange is where that should have started, and it just didn't. And don't get me wrong, as a movie itself, it's fine. It's perfectly enjoyable. The cast, for the most part, does everything that they need to. I actually surprisingly liked Cumberbatch a lot more than the first time I saw this movie. His accent's a little off, and yeah, he is very obviously Tony Stark 2.0. But the difference being is that while Tony Stark is always somewhat lovable, Stephen Strange just isn't.
Or you get to save one drunk idiot with a gun?
Yeah, you're right. In ER, we're only saving lives.
And yeah, once we get introduced to more of the magical elements, you would think that that's where the movie steps up, but no, it really just starts to become like kind of boring. A lot of the typical Marvel exposition dump. Lots of interesting visuals, but the fight choreography to me just doesn't match it. And the jokes. Oh my God, the jokes.
Try me, Beyonce.
And I think probably the most disappointing part about the fact that the humor is so bad in this movie is the fact that this was co-written by a former member of Spill.com. Yeah, that's right. C. Robert Cargill, aka Carlisle from Spill.com, helped co-write this movie with his partner, Scott Derrickson. And for this to be one of the more forgettable Marvel movies is just an insult, especially when I found that out. I know this movie is super loyal and faithful to the original Doctor Strange source material, but two things. One, I'm sorry, I know it ripped this off, but Batman Begins did it better. And two, if your straight adaptation just provides mediocrity, then you might need to change things up a bit. I will still say though, I do absolutely give props to the fact that Doctor Strange defeats the bad guy in this movie by literally trolling him. That's the sort of stuff that this movie should have been doing. And as for the villain, you guys will see when I do my Marvel villains ranked, but yeah, like it's just another great actor wasted in another generic role. And I think the thing that differentiates him from a majority of the Phase 1 villains, who for the most part I like, but I think are very misguided, is the fact that Caecilius is just unrelatable. He just wants to dominate the world and erase time and a whole bunch of otherworldly nonsense. It's a consistent movie, but overall it really doesn't stand out from the batch. I only gave this one 3 stars.